All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Level Up Lando, the show that takes you inside the struggles, the trials, the tribulations, and the occasional success that the everyday challenge of my life. Today is Monday, February 10th at 9:30 a.m., 2025, and this is my first public crossover episode between Level Up Lando and All About Aspen. Now, today, honestly, is going to be a Level Up Lando episode, which does take you inside the struggles, the trials, the tribulations, and the occasional successes of my life, instead of the more formal All About Aspen show, which is more about Aspen. But I really need this episode today. So this is more for me than it is for you guys. But I'm making it public so that you can follow along on the journey. So here we are. It's Monday, 9:30 a.m., February 10th. Super Bowl was yesterday. Eagles won. Go Birds. They beat the Chiefs, and it was a routing. They beat them badly, and it was kind of fun to watch. It was nice to watch Mahomes get sacked like pretty much every play. But that's not why we're here to talk. We are here to fill you in and to let me hopefully work through some of my struggles. I'm coming to you from Truscott Studios, also known as my bedroom, right here in lovely Aspen, Colorado. It's a gray, gloomy, wanting to snow, but not going to snow kind of day. It snowed a lot over the weekend. It was the first snow we've had in 3 weeks, which has been very welcome, and I got to get out amongst it. I've had a great ski season so far. I've got almost 50 days. I got 48 days skiing in, which is a lot for me, especially at this stage in the season where we're about midway through. So loving that snowy weather. We've got more snow coming. That's why it's looking a little bit gray. The snow's supposed to come Wednesday. So we're going to get some amongst it. Other than that, I have been struggling pretty badly with my finances, barely able to make rent, but somehow making it. Working for myself, not working for somebody else. I don't need a lot of money. My life is pretty slimmed down to just the bare essentials of paying my bills and buying food. I don't really have very many excess and or luxury items. However, on occasion, I do level up. So let's talk about a few of the level ups that have happened and a few of the trials and adversities that I've faced since the last time I sat down and did something like this, which was, I don't know, about a week ago. Let's take a look at the old yellow book of accountability. This is this little book that I use to help keep me on track with the various things that I have to do. And I don't know when the last time I actually sat down to do one of these things was, but it's got to be kind of into later January, I think. So let's see. All right, just kind of looking back through. Okay, so it looks like the 27th might have been the last time. Oh, no, I think I've done one since then. So let me catch you up on what has been going on. Last Sunday, I went down and I competed in a speech contest. I gave 2 different speeches, a humorous speech and the international speech. And in my personal opinion, I thought that I gave the better of the speeches both times. However, I lost both times, which just goes to show you how subjective these speech contests really are. But I did notice it put me into a bit of a depression. At first, I didn't think that it bothered me at all. I was really proud of myself for going and competing. I got second place. Here's my awards. Second place speech contest in the humorous speech contest. And second place in the international speech contest as well. So I'm not lying. I definitely went and competed. Unfortunately, I did lose. And while I didn't think that really bothered me in the beginning, once I kind of started to drive back home, which is about an hour and a half, 2-hour drive back home, I noticed a little bit of a depression starting to settle in a little bit. And I noticed that I started to kind of beat myself up and feel somewhat down for the idea that I competed and lost, even though initially I felt pretty proud of myself. But that was Sunday last week, and then I noticed that the whole rest of the week just wasn't really a great week. It was a really hard week. I went to an Eagles Club meeting, and I've had a few issues over there, and I've been trying to work it out and trying to be of service and of help to the Eagles Club. Um, However, I don't really feel particularly comfortable going in there, and it's just weird. So at the end of the day, I do want to help and I do want to be participating. So I went to a meeting, and I hopefully got us a new ping pong table. We will see if we actually pull the trigger on buying one. I've been told we're going to get one for a while now, but I'm hoping we're actually going to do it. So that's something that I get to level up. Yay, landed! Oh, and we're going to get to level up on the speech contest as well. So a couple of level ups, and this is me patting myself on the back for those of you who don't know. And the reason that I do that is that if you don't toot your own horn, and if you don't pat yourself on the back, and if you're not proud of yourself for the little wins that you have in your life, no one else is going to do it. So I like to highlight the little wins that I have and then give a little pat on the old back there. So that's speech contest, international speech contest, and speech contest, humorous speech contest. That's 2 pats on the back. And then also went to the Eagles Club meeting, and I'm hopefully getting us a ping pong table. So good job, Landon. Way to go. Yay. However, on the drive home from the Eagles Club meeting, my truck puttered out and it stalled on me. And I was able to get it back to the parking lot here, but I wasn't sure what was wrong with it. I took my little OBD2 scanner and ran it, and it said that the key wasn't talking to the computer and that there was some sort of error and that it wouldn't start the truck. It would start it and then kill it because it was like using the security system on the truck, and that the key wasn't actually like reading the computer, which sucks as far as like a problem to have to solve. I was going to have to get a new key made and cut, and then I was going to have to try to reprogram it to the computer. And if that didn't work, I was going to have to put a whole new computer into the car to make it talk to the key so that I could drive it. However, I had a tiny little inkling that maybe it was just out of gas. And so I ended up going and getting gas a couple of days ago. So I suffered the whole week wondering what was wrong with my truck. And then this last, I think on Friday, I was able to go get gas. So today's Monday, so a couple of days ago, I was able to go get gas, and I put gas in the truck, and it worked. So that's another level up. Yay! I fixed my truck, which putting gas in the truck to fix it is maybe the best way to fix an automobile. So I'm pretty happy with that. It took $60 worth of gas, which was 17 gallons, and it's a 15-gallon tank. So it was bone dry, and it makes sense why the truck puttered out. And it probably happened because I drove down to that speech contest, and I thought that I had enough gas, but apparently not. So, but again, suffering the whole week, wondering what's wrong with my truck, trying to figure out how am I going to pay for this if I have to pay for it, and how much is it going to cost me? Can I do it myself? And as I looked into all that, it looked like it was going to be very costly, and I was not going to be able to do it myself. So I'm really glad that it was just I ran out of gas, and I was able to put gas in it. So that's great. And I was able to afford putting gas in it, which is also great. And on that note, I was able to lock in this realtor client that I have for my company. Shout out to not All About Aspen, Aspen Drone Company, which is the sponsor of this show and my personal company. I'm the head pilot and CEO. And it's going particularly well for just launching a business, although I need to generate more income. I'm currently working with a realtor, and while she's definitely pushing me to be better and better, she's very demanding and wants a very high quality, which I don't blame her for that. However, it takes a lot of effort and time and work from my end to deliver. And I'm glad I'm able to step up and deliver. However, it is definitely a cumbersome project, and I definitely am working really hard on it. So it's a lot of work. So there's that. Let's just quickly create a new list of things that we've got to do today here, because there's definitely a lot on the list. So here we are on Monday, 2/10/25. I've got to invoice my friend. I got my buddy who has a food truck to agree to pay me. He was supposed to pay me $500, but he couldn't afford it. So we've dropped it down to $250. So that's great news for me because I only have like $300 to my name. So another 250 is going to allow me to invest a little bit into my company. I need to get a new hard drive. And that way I can store all this digital video that I'm creating and making. And it's not going to be on my computer or my little memory cards. It'll be on an actual hard drive. I also need to get business cards. I really need those. And in order to do that, I kind of need a logo. So I think that $250 that he's going to pay me is going to all go to being reinvested in the company. So we got to do that. I need to make a doctor's appointment. Something is going on with my shoulder. My whole shoulder is like radiating a dull pain. And I think initially it started because I was doing dips at the gym, and maybe like I'm an old man and I over exercised my arm or something, but like I noticed a real dull pain in the arm, and that then eventually started translating into like kind of like a permanent pain now. I've had it for probably a week. So I want to make a doctor's appointment and see what's wrong with my arm. It's nice that I do have health insurance. Generally, I don't. And so to have health insurance is just, I use it as much as I can because I'm paying for it. So, yeah, I'd like to find out what's wrong with it's like from like the top of like the back of my neck all the way down to like the middle of my tricep. It just like is pulsing this like dull pain. And it hurts. It sucks. And I fell once snowboarding, but it was already hurting before that. So I don't think that that's it, but I think that might have injured it a little bit more than it already was because it hurts. It sucks. It hurts. However, it hasn't stopped me from snowboarding. I've definitely got up the mountain the last couple of days yesterday. So first time hiking up the Highlands Bowl, and it was pretty good, although there was a lot of people. And so that kind of sucked. So let's see. I got to invoice my buddy. I got the doctor's appointment. I've got to schedule the shoot with the realtor. Okay, let's clean up the house. Oh, here's another level up. So again, I have just a tiny little bit of money, but one of the things that I was able to negotiate before I got this little tiny bit of money was a set of cross-country ski boots. And so one of my friends that I work at the outdoor shop hooked me up with this set. It's the rental set that's used, but the $32. And so now I've got some cross-country ski boots, which means that I can get out on the cross-country ski trails and start practicing some of that because it's pretty hard, actually. I'm worried about falling down and injuring myself and ruining my ski season doing something like on the flat, easy cross-country ski, but it's not that easy. It's actually pretty hard. So I'm looking forward to practicing. I'm looking forward to getting out there and trying it and getting it good so that I don't fall as often as I am right now. And then I'll have a whole other snow activity to do as far as skiing, snowboarding, and now cross-country skiing. And there's a lot of trails around the area here, so it's quite a good way to do cardio exercise. And then I can actually cross-country ski from my house all the way up to the gym, which is pretty incredible. I have been going to the gym a lot, which I don't know if you can tell, but I have been going to the gym, and I'm feeling pretty good about a lot of the routine that I have going on in my life. You know, it's part of the reason I wanted to sit down and get a podcast done. I haven't done one for myself in a while. I've done a couple of the All About Aspens, and they haven't gone particularly well. I had some technical issues with the very first public one that I tried, but whatever. I'm getting them done. I'm getting them in, and I'm doing my best to manage it all. However, I do feel like I'm starting to spread myself a little thin between trying to do these podcasts, trying to do the drone work, and trying to help out at Toastmasters and then also the Eagles Club. It's starting to feel like a lot. It's starting to feel like it's too much, actually, and I need to kind of pare it down a little bit and focus. You know, I need to stay on task. So let's see. What else do I have to do today? I got to look at all the stuff. I'm trying to rebuild my credit. And I've got a lady who's helping me through my mentorship with my business through SCORE. Shout out to SCORE, which is Core of Retired Executives. I don't know what the S stands for. So Core of Retired Executives is a nonprofit organization that helps people like myself who have launched their own company, get it going and keep it going. And it's just a support group by retired executives who have found success and are now trying to help other young and up and coming business people like myself. So credit card from SCORE. I got to try to apply for that. And they want me to look in. There's 3 therapy. I was sharing that I have some sort of a energetic block around allowing for abundance and success and wealth to come into my life. I identify very heavily with being broke and being a poor person. And there's a part of me that doesn't want to let go of my identifying with that because I don't want to be a rich prick. I want to be an awesome rich guy. And I feel like having the humility that comes with being broke is a big part of that. And while I have no concerns that once I'm rich, I will stay humble and that it will just basically be a gateway to allowing me to contribute at a higher level, for some reason, on an energetic level, I'm not allowing that to happen. And it's largely tied to this idea that I am identified with being a poor person and being broke. And I'm ready to shed that identity. I'm ready to be done with that. However, just all of the evidence that I have in my life, in my mind, has created a mental groove, if you will, that I fall back into, and it's hard for me to break out of. It's hard for me to break out of like the mental patterns of thinking or saying words like "I'm broke." But the fact of the matter is when you have less than $300 in your bank account, you're pretty fucking broke. So I have a lot of evidence to support the concept and the idea that I am broke, and very little evidence to support the idea that I've got wealth and abundance. However, I do have wealth and abundance. I love very much. I love living in Aspen. I love getting to call Aspen home. And in all those ways, there's more than one form of wealth. Financial wealth is only one kind of wealth. And on a spiritual, physical, and emotional wealth level, I'm very, very rich. And I feel very fortunate to have all of those capabilities, whether it's my mental health, my physical health, and my emotional health, which of the 3 of those, my emotional health is probably the one that's the most volatile and up and down, because truly on a day-to-day and especially a week-to-week basis, my life changes so dramatically, which is good on the one side because it helps me stay present and I can't look too far into the future. But it's bad on the other side in that I have no stability. I have no foundation to stand on and build on that I know is not going to collapse and crumble underneath me. Even though I'm building it out, I just don't have it. So I'm working on all that stuff, and it's hard. It's hard to be struggling financially and trying to pay the rent and still find the motivation to get up to go do the work I have to do to get paid. So a lot of give and take, a lot of tug of war, pulling and pushing. But when I do find myself in times of struggle and adversity, there's a tried and true method that I like to use to help reframe my entire situation, my entire way of being and thinking. And that tried and true method is this little bad boy right here. This is the Daily Stoic, 366 Meditations on Wisdom, Perseverance, and the Art of Living by Ryan Holiday and Stephen Hanselman. Thank you, gentlemen, for creating this book. It's very helpful to me. I like to read it to my audience in the hope that it helps them. So let's take a look at today's. Where are we? We're February 10th. And before I read from this, I like to try to help you get into my head so that you can see what a difference the book makes or how applicable it is to my personal situation, and then I'm sure your personal situation, which is probably different from my own. I imagine it has to be. My problems tend to be pretty unique to me. So in that way, feeling a little overwhelmed, feeling like I've got a lot going on in my life and I've got a lot of, juggling pins in the air, and I'm trying to juggle them all. But as I add more and more pins to the situation, it's becoming more and more difficult. So I think I need to just sort of take a minute and slow down and really assess where my priorities are so that I can focus on what I need to do, because I'm trying to do a lot and it might be too much. It's starting to feel like it's a little too much. So feeling slightly overwhelmed, but also really proud of myself. I gotta say, the fact that I've been able to make it this far and struggle the struggle and still figure out how to work for myself and not have to go get another job is truly an accomplishment. It really is quite the feat. If you were to be in my shoes and to see what I'm really overcoming as far as challenges and adversity on a daily, hourly, minute by minute basis. I am constantly putting out fires and constantly finding small victories in a world filled with challenge. So things are hard. Things are really hard. And that's part of the reason I wanted to get this episode out, is to cover a lot of kind of the depression that I've gone through over the last week. Wasn't really alleviated until I got a deposit from this realtor who gave me a little bit of money to help pay back some of the debt that I owed and then get myself out of the negative, but then also to just be able to afford to buy a little bit of food. It's pretty depressing when you go to your fridge and you're hungry and you open it and you just don't have anything in there. And I mean, it's gotten so bad to the point where I've just eaten pretty much all the stuff that's in my cupboards as well. All those, like, canned chunked pineapple and the pinto beans that you got just stored in your cupboards. I've eaten all that stuff because I've had to, because I can't afford to go to the grocery store. So it's pretty depressing when you can't afford to eat and you are hungry and you go to look for food and there just really isn't anything that you can even like scrap together, whether it's just like plain egg noodles. Like, I got nothing. So that's been hard. It's been really hard. And in that way, getting a little bit of the deposit from this realtor has allowed me to buy food. So I did. I went ahead and bought some food, and that's cheered me up quite a bit. Having food in your refrigerator is a big deal. So, if you're going through a hard time and you don't have any food, believe me, I know how difficult that can be. And I know that when you're trying to keep yourself upbeat and you're trying to stay positive, but your stomach is grumbling and you got nothing to put in it, that it can really undermine a lot of your mental effort to keep yourself, positive and lifted up. So let's see what else. Yeah, I guess I'm just aware that I'm struggling, but that this is the beginning. I launched my company in May. It's February, so it'll be a year here coming up pretty soon. But this first year has been particularly difficult, and I'm aware that this is the hardest it's going to be. It's only going to get easier. So if I can fight this fight and win it, I know that the next fight is going to be a little bit easier, and that I'll be more likely to win that one because I'll be stronger. I'll be more seasoned. I'll have gone through this period of time. I'll have made some of the mistakes that I've made, which I've definitely made some mistakes. I spent a bit of the money that I got a little while ago on alcohol, which I've been particularly sober lately because I can't afford to buy alcohol. It's really expensive. And so if I have to choose between food and alcohol, I buy food, of course. And I got a tiny little payday, which wasn't enough to afford to buy anything luxurious. It was just enough to bring me back out of debt. And it had been over, a week or so since I'd had a drink, and I decided to spend like $30 on alcohol, and really regretted that decision, both from the hangover standpoint, and when I finally finished the alcohol and I didn't have any more money, I realized that was a really dumb decision, and that sometimes I make these really bad, short-sighted decisions that really do affect the future for a while. It takes me a while to correct the course. And so I'm glad that this wasn't one of those where it really took me off the rails. It made me stumble a little bit, but fortunately, I learned and I've been able to recover from that short-sighted decision to choose pleasure, immediate pleasure, over delayed gratification. So hopefully you're not doing that. If you're struggling, hopefully you're able to find your way to make delayed gratification choices, which usually are harder. So that's where it's at. I'm struggling. I'm going through the struggle. I've been mind dumping, which is kind of cool. I've got this little journal that I like write everything in and try to get all the negative thoughts and all like the doubts and worries out onto the paper and kind of just mind dump all of my mental worries and concerns. And in that way, I basically just write whatever free flow comes to my mind until my hand gets so tired and it hurts so much from writing, I don't want to write anymore. And then I'll stop. But it takes about 5 minutes, and I'm doing it not every day, but pretty regularly to the idea that I'm just trying to get this out of me. I don't want it in me. I don't want these concerns. I don't want these worries. I don't want these limiting beliefs in me. I want to get them out. So I've been doing that. And you know what? It's been working. It's been working. So that's another thing that I would recommend if you're struggling like I'm struggling and you're fighting the good fight. Start mind dumping. Start letting all your concerns and worries out onto a piece of paper and get them out of you. I find that it's kind of been like a magic cheat code. I feel like a wizard where I'm just using the pen to get the emotion out and it actually gets out. So, highly recommend that as a strategy. It's called mind dumping, and you basically just, it doesn't matter what you're thinking, you put it on the paper. So, with that, let's check out the Daily Stoic and we'll see how it applies to my life. Going through a really hard time, stressing out about money, stressing about if I'm doing enough work, if I'm working hard enough, if I'm doing everything I need to do to make my business grow and go. And on top of that, trying to enjoy some quality of life around living in one of the most incredible places in the world, but also struggling really hard. And if I can figure this part out, it's going to be so much easier. I'm going to be able to contribute and give back and be of service at a level that I really want to, and I believe that I should be able to live into that potential. And I'm it's like swimming with weights on my feet. I'm just not free to do that. I'm working really hard to get there. So here we go. February 10th. Anger is bad fuel. There's no more stupefying thing than anger, nothing more bent on its own strength. If successful, none more arrogant. If foiled, none more insane. Since it's not driven back by weariness, even in defeat, when fortune removes its adversary, it turns its teeth on itself. Ooh, that's a good line. I don't even know what it means. Seneca on Anger 3.1.5. As the Stoics have said many times, getting angry almost never solves anything. Usually it makes things worse. We get upset, then the other person gets upset. Now everyone is upset, and the problem is no closer to getting solved. Many successful people will try to tell you that anger is a powerful fuel in their lives. The desire to prove them all wrong or shove it in their faces has made many a millionaire. The anger at being called fat or stupid has created fine physical specimens and brilliant minds. The anger at being rejected has motivated many to carve their own path. But that's short sighted. Such stories ignore the pollution produced as a side effect and the wear and tear it put on the engine. It ignores what happens when the initial anger runs out and how now more and more must be generated to keep the machine going until eventually the only source left is anger at oneself. Hate is too great a burden to bear, Martin Luther King Jr. warned his fellow civil rights leaders in 1967, even though they had every reason to respond with hate with hate. The same is true for anger. In fact, it's true for most extreme emotions. They are toxic fuel. There's plenty of it out in the world, no question, but never worth the costs that come along with it. So a lot of times these things land for me and sometimes they don't. And in that particular instance, a little of it landed and a little of it didn't. I do have anger and I am often easily triggered, and I do feel the need for justice. I feel the need to impose my will on other people when I get particularly angry. And it's a part of me that I'm working on. However, in that same vein, I've done a lot of work on my own anger, and I'm not a particularly angry person at this point in time. Sometimes it gets triggered. I'm thinking about my upstairs neighbor, Patrick, who has pissed me off by kind of fucking me over pretty badly. And a lot of this is around the Eagles Club where I love to go, and I now no longer feel comfortable going. So in that way, I find it's just not worth my time to think about. Sometimes when I think about him, I start to get angry, and when I think about the way that I was treated by him, I start to get angry, and then I realize he's living rent free in my head, and truthfully, he's just not worth it. He's not worth my time. He's not worth thinking about. And so, in that way, I'm working on trying to find a way to forgive him, but more importantly, to forgive myself, which I have not done. And that's a lot of times where my anger is coming from, is that I haven't done the work. To forgive him is easy, but to forgive myself is a little bit more difficult. And to allow myself the grace of having bad judgment and helping somebody who ultimately fucked me over um, is something that it's a difficult thing for me to rectify within myself, and I'm still beating myself up for it. And this is almost 2 months later. So it's interesting how even though I'm not particularly angry, I'm still carrying a lot of that animosity and upset, and I got fucked over kind of a feeling inside me. And when I think about trying to do the work on that part of myself, I don't really have a deep desire to do it. I feel like it's just not worth my time, and I've got other things that need my time and attention. And so I continue forward, soldiering on, but I'm carrying that anger and animosity in me, and it's unhealed. And it does come out, and it does surface in a way that is indicating to me that there's still work to be done there. So I do appreciate the idea that anger is toxic fuel, but it is fuel. And sometimes you just need fuel, like when my truck broke down. And I was worried that it was the key. All I really needed was to get a little bit more gas. However, to their point, it is important to put the right kind of fuel in your vehicle. And if you put toxic fuel in, even if it's running it and even if it's helping propel the machine forward, eventually it's going to do more damage than it does good. So I appreciate that lesson from the Daily Stoic. It doesn't apply as directly as a lot of the other lessons that I tend to take away from it. But that's mainly due to the fact that I've done a lot of the work on myself, because I recognize that I do carry anger with me just at the world. I'm just angry. I'm pissed off that there's all this injustice in the world, and that there's people who are hungry and homeless, and then there's other people who have billions of dollars and they're eating caviar. And yeah, so there's a large part of me that's upset at just the injustices of the world, and that I do kind of carry that anger with me out into the world, and that oftentimes, if it's provoked and if it's poked, it'll come out. And it's not necessarily about that person or about that situation. It's just about me and the anger that I have towards the world. So I think the idea that anger is toxic fuel is a good one to process and think about, even though at this particular time I'm not particularly angry. I do have anger inside me, and I don't want that to be the fuel that's running me. Because the truth is that for the most part, the fuel that does run me is love. That's why I'm creating the show. That's why I'm sharing some of these personal and vulnerable stories of my life, is the idea that if you can relate to this in any way, that maybe you can see that it's important to stay positive and it's important to look on the bright side of life and find the silver lining. And that ultimately, the main lesson that I like from the Stoics, which is essentially what the Daily Stoic is, the main lesson I think is the obstacle is the way. And the idea there is that all the problems in your life, all the hard times, all the adversity, it's all a gift. It's all happening for you and not to you. And from that place, if you can embrace that idea, which can sometimes be difficult, that the world becomes a lot easier to handle, and that the suffering of the world becomes a lot easier to handle, and that the trials and the challenges and the anger and the upset are all designed to help make you more aware. It's all a gift for you. And so from that place, I try to embrace the suffering. That's really what I'm trying to do. And so It's hard. I have a lot of suffering to embrace, and I do it. I do it pretty well, I think. And I feel very blessed and fortunate to be raised to be self aware and to take responsibility for my life and the choices that I make and the choices that get me to where I currently am today. And so, with that, we'll start wrapping up the show under the idea that we've got a few things on the list of things that we need to get done today. And we've got to trust and have the faith to know that, you know, if we're doing the things that we need to do, we'll get to where we're going, even if we can't see the final destination. You know, my dad likes to say, there's light at the end of the tunnel. You're just in a corner. You're going through a curve and it's really dark and you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, but it's there. So you got to keep on moving down the track. You got to get through the bend. You got to get through the dark times. You got to get through the hard times. And then you'll see that light. And when you see the light, it'll still be really far away. You still have a long way to go. But just being able to know that there's an end to the suffering and just being able to know that there's a destination that is worth suffering to get to is a real uplifter. It really is. When you're walking through the dark, fumbling your way through the tunnel, you know, trying to find the light at the end of it, even if it's really far away, once you see there's light, that then gives you hope. And so I hope for you that you're able to push on through and endure the suffering that you have to endure so that you can see that light that's at the end. It's there. It is there. So keep working, keep struggling, keep embracing the suffering and knowing that the universe is unfolding perfectly and it's conspiring in your favor. And if you really do believe that, which I do, you can trust. You can trust that there's no way to fuck life up and that everything that's happening is happening on purpose and it's perfect. And when you can shift having bad things and hard times be perfect, it really does make it a lot easier. So, with that, I'm going to send you out into the world to hopefully suffering and to take on the challenges of life with open arms and to make your life a dream come true. You know, I'm really working hard to fix my financial situation and I like documenting it with the hope that it inspires somebody else who's struggling like I am. And, you know, maybe you can also fix your life and change it so that it's something that you love to wake up to and that you're excited to wake up to. And it's not this hard, overbearing weight of an existence, which life can often be if you don't have the right outlook. So that's what I got for you on today's show. I hope that you're enjoying it. I hope that you're enjoying watching me try to level up as I go through the struggles of my life. I got the truck fixed. That's a big one. You know, I've got this client, which I've got some work. That's another big one. Got these cross-country ski boots, which hopefully I don't bust my ass trying to figure out how to use. But that's another little win for Landon. And so, you know, you got to provide yourself with evidence that you are succeeding and that you are finding the small wins in life, because there's a lot of evidence to the counter. There's a lot of evidence that I'm sucking it up and that I'm fucking it up and that I am doing a terrible job. And if you want to feed that, it's available. You can do that. And I'd rather not. I'd rather do things and create things in my life that are examples that I'm overcoming and that I'm leaving that hard time behind me, and that furthermore I'm putting in the effort to be a better person today so that tomorrow is just a little bit easier. That's what I got for you. I'm your host, Landon Like a Plane, and I'm taking off.